is the wall to those who fell in the Warsaw Uprising at the Warsaw Uprising Museum. Today, we meet a remarkable man, 10 when the Second World War broke out, 12 when he joined the underground, 13 when he was tortured by the Gestapo, 15 when he took part in the Warsaw Uprising itself. This is the remarkable story of Professor Julian Kulski. Join me on Poland Daily History as we look at this remarkable man's story and his remarkable life.
The Germans had a tank with a machine gun covering the whole Krasiński Avenue. We had to jump to get back to our unit. And we were at that time in the middle of the Krasiński Street. It wasn't grass, it was potatoes, because it was need for food during the we were caught by the machine gun fire right in the middle of Krasiński Street. So it was flattened out, and I was holding my rifle overhead, and I was got shot through the arm. But then the tank started firing the gun, and as it came closer and closer to us, we were forced to jump to the right side. We did. I lost my friend in the place. He was killed. But I was able to get into the gate, and there was a first aid station. They took care of me. And then on the last day of the uprising, before the end of the uprising, I got very sick. I got pneumonia, which still developed later into a TB, and I had high fever, and the Żoliborz was already in fire, and the tanks and the Goliaths were attacking down Słowacki Street. I was on the first floor, and there were two tanks in front of me. By that time, I was given a Pawiak, the British anti-tank gun, and a soldier who was carrying the ammunition for me. And they stopped for a minute, and I was able to hit one of the Panthers, and it started on fire. The soldiers started jumping out, all burning. And but I saw the other tank, realized from the window that I was shooting from, and started moving his gun in that direction. So I jumped out, and I busted my leg. But the worst part was the surrender, because we expected for 5 years to be killed as Poles, as human beings. And we never thought as soldiers that we would be surrendering to the Germans, because the Germans were shooting at us, killing us when we surrendered, and we knew that it would be to certain death. So we were very upset at the order, but being soldiers, we had to
And I think that's an interesting point, is that the Germans accepted that you were soldiers, and so sad as it was, when the surrender came, you were treated as prisoners of war and not sort of...
Well, this was part of the negotiations, and I think the British and the Americans had something to say about it. But there was also another about the Geneva Convention. But also there was a crazy idea on the part of Himmler that he could convince us that the real enemy were the Russians. and they could go after 5 years of killing us and treating us as dirt, that we would, having lost members of the family and in the uprising, they would turn around our guns on the Russians, who would, but not along with the Germans.
Yes, it is odd, isn't it, that everybody...
So that's the reason why they negotiated for 3 weeks, and parts of the negotiation was capitulation, not surrender, and was on certain terms. And the terms were that, well, of course they didn't keep all the terms, but
at least you sort
at
of...
least they send us to prisoner of war camps rather than put them against the wall the way that we did during those 63 days.
So that is, I suppose, some small blessing. Or, well, the fact we're talking today makes it a major blessing, of course. But that is. And how did you really feel at that point?
About what?
The moment of surrender.
We all cried like children.
Well, because you really were, in fact, you still were.
We were seasoned soldiers by that
also
time. We were men by then.
Yes, but also in physical age, probably still
physical age,
children
we
in
definitely
some ways.
were children, right? But grown people in the 20s and 30s also cried because they were scared of going and surrendering, and we knew that it was the end of the uprising.
And the prison of war camp was in Germany, wasn't it? I think you were taken to.
Yes, they took us to cattle cars and stuffed us into about 60 to each stuffed in very unhygienic conditions. And the strange thing was that General Colonel, who was the head of the tank division that captured Żoliborz, stood on top of one of the wagons and gave us a lecture. And very chivalrous, he said, mentioned the number of tanks that we, and the number of soldiers that we killed, and said that we German soldiers were very proud to fight against such courageous soldiers. I thought it was a little bit theatrical.
But I suppose in some ways...
in some ways it was also nice of them to do.
Yes, I mean, it is. I think it is a testament, isn't it, that here's a professional army officer. Yes, the chivalry that, despite everything we've said earlier about
the chivalrous during the war.
No, but maybe he had
since they won.
Yes, but maybe he had a foreboding that he might be in a similar position in the not too distant future. So it would be good to start trying to earn some sort of credit.
And I was still sick. I had high fever.
Yes, you describe in the book this very uncomfortable train journey to the camp.
It was horrible because we're not allowed to go to the bathroom. There was a corner, very unhygienic. And then we stopped in Berlin. There was an American bombing raid. And we got to the camp, and the camp didn't have any space for us. So we had to sleep on the open. It was cold, already fall, and for me, with the temperature of 100, way over 100, it was a death sentence. Fortunately, in English, this was an international camp, and an English Red Cross guy saw me, and he took me to so-called hospital for the TB. Well, it wasn't much of a hospital, but at least it had a roof, and I spent there quite a few months. It was horrible because what people don't realize that the conditions in the prisoner of war camp were pretty much the same as in a death camp. Only instead of gas, they starved you to death. But the British prisoners of war and the prisoners who were there a long time were walking skeletons. And I was at the end of the 9 months that I was there. But the only way you could survive the camp is by being sick. So that's what saved my life. because what the Germans did, it was used as for slave labor in stone quarries and on the one piece of bread a day, you didn't last more than a week. There was a Scottish friend that I befriended, Scottish prisoner of war, and he came home and he showed me pictures of his family, and he died right there from exhaustion. It's complete. So this was no different from gas chambers. You know, maybe gas chambers were a bit easier because this to carry stone quarries 7 days a week, 12 hours a day,
on no
and not
food.
on no food. It's just a death sentence.
Yes, that's you just can't. Well, I can't. You just can't comprehend the evil behind some of what went on in the Second
Well,
World War.
I looking back at it, I think in a way it was a religion. It was like a religion. They really believed, Germans believed, that by eliminating the Slavs and the Jews, they would make a better world. So they were able to commit crimes which they didn't consider as crimes.